the audio trouble we had here, but we're going to be talking about electromagnetic radiation now. What is that all about?
So we basically have a convergence of many different things going on that most people are not aware of. Of course, everybody knows about Fukushima radiation, but they're not aware that we're getting bombarded from cosmic rays because our magnetosphere is kind of collapsing. And that's basically the shield that is protecting Earth from cosmic rays. So it's allowing them to bring in a lot of different radiation that is harmful to us. And then, of course, on top of that, we've got this 5G situation. So it's a synergistic effect right now.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so is electromagnetic radiation, is that the only thing bombarding us? Do we also have like plasma blast from the sun?
Well, that's kind of what a plasma is. What we also have that I didn't mention is Earth has entered a spiral band of the galaxy. So that dust in the form of particles, some of which are radioactive, also are bombarding us. So we're getting plasma from the sun, and we're also getting bombarded from the galaxy dust also.
Mm-hmm. What happens when that dust hits us?
So basically, many different things. It's just like all the different radiation problems that anybody could have from anyone, from nuclear, cosmic, or 5G. And so that would be things like neurodegenerative diseases, chronic diseases, infertility, of course, cancer, autism. It really affects fertility. People can go blind, hormonal dysfunction, kidney failure, and some things lately that people have been experiencing are heart attacks and strokes and feelings of either violence or depression. We're going through these coupling where the sun does not have sunspots, but it has coronal holes. And those coronal holes, when they face Earth, they send plasma to us. And because our shield is down, think of Star Trek, the shields are down, and it's letting all that plasma in to do all sorts of damage. It can even alter your DNA and the DNA of your animals and also plants.
Mm-hmm. Celeste, I've speculated myself that this perhaps when we die and we go to heaven, that I know there's your life is in a book, and read the book, but I speculated that perhaps a list that among the checklist of being able to be in heaven is that your DNA is pure human. Is it possible that with the altering of DNA, that when you get to heaven, if it's not recognized, say, as human DNA that's been altered in some way, that you don't get in there? Is that a possibility?
So my personal belief and my understanding is that if you believe in Jesus Christ as your personal savior, you are a new creation. And that new creation is by the minute. Every time a cosmic ray hits you or radiation or whatever is trying to corrupt your DNA, then you would be allowed into heaven. The only people that will not be in heaven are the people that reject Jesus Christ.
A lot of people have been trying to change the human genome. I mean, it seems like that goes all the way back to Genesis 6, that that they were trying to change DNA. There's something about it, whether aliens are doing it or whether it's just, as you say, electromagnetic radiation or plasma blast or whatever. There just seems to be some attempt to change humans into something else.
I think actually it's a combination of things. One, I believe that we have finally come to a place in history where God is beginning to judge mankind for rejecting him. And so, what is the form of judgment or punishment that the Bible prescribes? And that is being stoned. So we're actually being stoned by these little tiny particles that are doing a lot of damage. Now then you add the powers that be that want to control the earth, and so they're doing their part with the 5G to a kind of a synergistic effect. So you get both of them working at the same time. So there's a lot arrayed. I mean, when you think about really what is arrayed against us, when you think of radiation, chemicals, people that don't, that are violent and angry, all these earth changes, it's really amazing that we're even here. Really. I mean, we should be thanking God that we are here.
Well, you're right. You talk about the forces arrayed against us. I mean, I could rattle them off. At least your 5G network, as you say, the electromagnetic radiation, sunburst radiation coming through. Of course, we're immersed in Wi-Fi field. Cell phones are going back and forth in our brain. Who knows why we're not picking up somebody else's conversation in our own head. Chemtrails, GMOs. I mean, but the list, man, is like, does anybody, who's on our side? What we have to have a defense all around us, because this crap's coming at us every which way but loose.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's why, so I was kind of inspired at the beginning of July to write the book, Electromagnetic Radiation Protection Solutions. And I was amazed at how many protections God has provided for us if we use it. And I broke the book up into several different sections. One, describing the threat. And then what does it do to the body? What do these things do to the body? And some of which I just went through. And then I divided it into supplements that you can take that provide you with protection, and also different foods. And basically, when I did the food list, it's in alphabetical order, and so are the supplements. So you can look at your what supplements or foods you consume to see if they're radioprotective. And it's a comprehensive list, but it's not exhaustive. So let's say you love cherries, and cherries are not in the book. So all a person needs to do is they put in cherries in the search engine of their choice, and then they put in radioprotective, and that will tell you. It will say whether it's radioprotective or not. And in many cases, it will tell you what rays or particles it's effective against, because there are different types of particles. And in some things, you have to take this protection before you get hit. And in other times, you can take it's effective while the event is going on. And sometimes you can take and do post exposure. So, and then I try to break up the foods to include everybody's diet, so that if you were a vegan, whatever diets you were on, I also try to make it global friendly. So people in Europe can find some of their foods and herbs and spices, and people in China and people in Indonesia and Africa and South America, and of course the United States and Canada and Mexico. So
okay, Paul Shishi asked this question: can humans get through the Van Allen radiation belt?
Some people say that they can't. I believe that they have done that. Have gone through. That's just my own take.
Well, I mean, certainly if they say have a hat like this will pretty much protect you from radiation. See, I don't need like a shield, because I got this thing, so I kind of stay under it, But somebody asked a question. Dorian asked a question. It says, Celeste, do you know anything about Nibiru?
Actually, I was just reading something this morning, but I didn't get that's my dog.
We're animal friendly over here. I knew you had a dog, and I want to get him on the show.
Well, that poor little baby died last October, so I got a new one. Her name's Miss Zippy.
Oh.
So yeah, he died of cancer. So it was it was a sad thing. And if I would have known about all the protections in the book, I would have put him on it. But it was only 3 weeks from diagnosis till he died. So that was a really fast-moving cancer.
Okay.
So anyway, back to Nibiru. All I can say is I haven't seen Nibiru. Do I believe that there could be a planetary approach? Yes. But that's part of a breaking news story that I'm working on maybe for this week. So I can't say too much about it. It wouldn't involve Nibiru per se, but maybe something along that line.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So now you work for FEMA.
I used to. I don't now.
You worked for them. Did you, when you were there at FEMA, did you pick up any intelligence that they know something of a sort of a cataclysmic nature is coming our way?
Absolutely. And anybody that's followed my work, basically the CIA, all the agencies knew, and they classified that information from the people. And recently a book called The Adam and Eve Story was declassified, and it tells about the cataclysms of the end times, basically.
Mm-hmm. Do you care to elaborate a little bit on what their main conclusion is, or what the biggest threat?
It was mostly crustal displacement. Now, some of the scientists that I follow believe supernova may also be a part of that. So it's going to be some pretty wild times. A crustal displacement, it would send waves across the United States. The CIA did purchase land on the leeward side of certain mountains in the Rockies. And actually, David, my husband that was killed, and I got an off-grid place in the Rocky Mountains. And we came to find out that it was one of those CIA safe places for this cataclysm. Mm-hmm. So, and we knew some of the people that were up there. So it was real. Mm-hmm. They feel that the safest place was Pikes Peak to be, because this huge wave of water is going to, like, if there was a crustal displacement, go across the United States, wiping out everything. I mean, animals, trees, everything. The last time this happened, I guess I should back up. There's been 6 extinction level events, and we are entering the 7th extinction level event.
Wow. Do we know what the first extinction level event was?
They each have a name, but I'm sorry, I don't have it on the tip of my brain right now.
Well, I mean, are we talking about things on this order, say like a flood, a fire, asteroid, these types of cataclysmic events?
Yes. Okay. And as a matter of fact, they seem to coincide with major biblical events, which I find really interesting. Like the first one is about the time that Adam and Eve would have been expelled from the Garden of Eden. Mm-hmm. So,
a lot of people said that there's been civilizations before the flood, even before Adam. Do you agree with that? And perhaps that these cataclysmic events wiped them out, and why there's not a lot of archaeological evidence for it?
Absolutely. There's traditions and legends, and I am writing a book and it goes into some of those. And there's many people, there's a lot of YouTubes, and they are credible of these advanced civilizations. As a matter of fact, my dad worked for Naval Warfare, and we had a archaeologist come to our home, and when I was a young girl, and he was looking for advanced civilizations, talked about computers. I mean, this is a time when, you didn't even hear NASA had computers, and let's see, batteries and all these different things that they found that were thousands and thousands and thousands of years old.
While you were at FEMA, did you ever come across information about the classic FEMA camps that's always running around the internet?
So my take on that, I never heard about FEMA camps. There are, per se, there are going to be reception centers, and those will probably be your like Target, your Walmart, but they will have special employees there. You see, it doesn't make sense these days that FEMA would want large camps of people, let's say like during the Holocaust. The plan is depopulation, basically.
I heard not too long ago that a number of Walmarts shut down, and people were saying that they were refitting them for this very thing. Whatever happened to those Walmart
So there were Walmarts, and there's some grocery stores, and I believe Target are going to be these reception centers. And if anybody's interested, they can contact me. I have done articles on it. I did do some extensive articles on it, but I had a website, and when my husband was killed, it got hacked, and I couldn't deal with everything, so I just let it go. So I was unfortunate because I did forensic, put the documents, hard link them in so that anybody could see what, incremental plans had been building for many, many years. But they were much of that was lost.
You said your husband was killed. How was he killed?
Well, it was a car accident, but
so-called.
It was, let's say, a divine appointment, but it didn't make sense. Let's just put it that way. So,
well, if anybody doubts there's a list, all you got to do is look at Jeffrey Epstein, man. I mean, look, these people, the deep state's reach is deep and long, and if you end up on the wrong side of them, I mean, they got 1,000 ways. In fact, I think it was Chuck Schumer who said that if you go against the intelligence agency, they have 6 ways from Sunday to get back at you. Now think about that, Celeste. A United States government agency will get back at you. I mean, we're talking about vindictiveness on a level of an extinction level event happening in your life. I don't want an extinction level event happening in my life, but these guys can do it, and they do it all the time.
So I had experience with that, actually. So I was a small agricultural lobbyist, and so it wasn't big commercial ag. And no, I was not a paid lobbyist. I did this because I love agriculture and I love small agriculture, and I wanted people to have the freedom to grow good food locally. And so anyway, I went to a series of hearings and discovered that the state veterinarian was going to Plum Island and bringing back pathogens, and he himself was contaminated with very dangerous pathogens. He was supposed to be quarantined. He did not stay in quarantine, much less he was bringing these vials of blood and with pathogens back with him. And so my representative calls me one day, and he goes, "They've got a contract out for your life. The state vet put a contract out on your life." So then I did go dark, and for a time, and I went back for a brief afternoon to do some follow-up lobbying, and everybody was amazed. They thought the word had gone out that I was dead. So
wow.
So it does happen.
All right. Question for you. Whatever happened to Jade Helm 15 in 2015 under Obama's watch? Now, I know a lot of times when it comes to, say, a prophet, over the years I've done so many shows and there's been a lot of predictions, but then if somebody, say, predicts something that happens and it doesn't, then the usual retort is, well, we prayed against it and stopped it. Now, I'm not sure if that's really the case, but what's your take on that, and maybe even Agenda 21 as well?
So my take on Jade Helm was that it was an AI beta test, and that it was successful in its objectives. And obviously we're seeing AI being implemented in every facet of our life. And at some point it is under military control at this point. There are humans in the loop, although at some point, according to scripture, it will just be one person, and that's the Antichrist. So.
And do you have any idea who the Antichrist is?
That I don't know. I believe that the Antichrist is alive now, but I do not know.
I'll tell you what, Celeste, if I see him, I'm going to smack him in the face. Is that all right?
Go for it.
All right. Okay, Tony in Louisiana. Years ago, I was given an MRI and I felt and saw the electromagnetic field all around me. A friend told me he went through the same experience himself. Is that normal?
I do a lot with there are good electromagnetic waves. It's not all bad. As a matter of fact, wow. There's the secret electromagnetic life of plants. It is a fascinating read. I encourage all of your listeners to read it because it's very interesting. So these things can be used for healing. Like red light, for instance. I was just listening to a class yesterday on the healing benefits of red light, that it can cure cancer, that it can do many of the diseases that people are afflicted with if they just got like a panel of LED red lights. You can also use lasers. It's very healing. As opposed to the blue light that is kind of damaging and disrupting our bodies.
Well, it don't sound like I like that blue light coming on here.
But I do believe everybody has like an aura.
Oh, really?
Around them.
Now, can you see auras?
No, but I do have seizures, and I can tell when one's coming because I have an aura, and I can tell it's coming. So I haven't had one for like 20 years, but... So I believe in the auras, but no, I'm not. I don't see them. I mean, I feel I rely on the Holy Spirit, like to tell who is a person that I should approach or not approach if it's somebody that I don't know or.
Well, evidently I passed the test or you wouldn't be on the show, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Man.
Yes.
Wow. But I tell you what, I did have a guest on the show that said that they could actually see auras, and they did say that I had a good positive aura. So I'm kind of happy about that. But Yahweh first says, "How do neodymium, is that right? Magnets heal? That they healed my knuckle arthritis. Neodymium. Have you heard of him?"
No, I haven't heard of it.
But let's look at magnets in general. Do magnets have any healing properties you've heard of?
So a lot of people, it's very interesting, magnets. A lot of people do get healing benefits from them. Now, as for me, I can't go near a magnet. I was attending a friend's wedding and we were making the flowers and everybody was together because it was a DIY wedding party, Oh. And so we were doing the flowers ourselves, and this young boy threw this ball at me, and of course you catch it because it's a ball being thrown at you, and it threw me across the room because I can't get near magnets, and I don't know. For me, I just can't go near them.
Wow.
So,
well, somebody once said I had magnetic appeal. Is that the same thing?
I think it's something different.
Oh, okay.
I think a magnetic appeal is something else.
Okay.
It's biochemical rather than a magnet.
Oh, okay. All right. Catman Florida says, is all this happening from a pole shift?
That's part of it. That's part of what's going on. The poles are doing an excursion right now. And it's slow, but when it reaches a certain point, then it goes faster, and then it flips. And so it's possible that at some point in the future, we would experience a pole shift.
Question came in and says, from Doreen out of the live chat. All these questions are mainly coming from our live chat on our website, by the way. Is Trump part of the deep state?
Well, I think he is, I respect him as the president that was voted in. I believe that he was better than Hillary. Um, I am extremely concerned with what I see going on in the back channel, things like science and technology. And recently, like within the last, I would say 10 days, there have been a lot of closed door meetings where the public isn't allowed, media is not allowed, only special people are allowed.
Ooh.
And to me, that uh, smacks of we're getting, when you're not transparent like our republic is supposed to be, totalitarianism is a concern. Fascism, the marrying of government and corporations, is concerning. So
Mm-hmm.
that's what I feel about our president.
What about this Space Force that just seemed to come out of nowhere? Donald Trump was talking about. Is it possible that the going back to say the FEMA information or maybe military information that something's heading our way and that we will need a Space Force to fight it off?
No, I think it's just a way to get money. There's many creative ways to get money. Um, and I believe that we already have a Space Force that is probably very advanced, but we don't hear about it. It's not for the average citizen. The Space Force that we're hearing about, um, from what I can see, they're going to do things like mining asteroids to get the precious metals or whatever they want out of it, the asteroids or comets
Mm-hmm.
as they
Mm-hmm.
come by.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not really going to benefit you and I.
Mm-hmm.
It will benefit certain individuals
Mm-hmm.
or corporations.
Mm-hmm. Uh, if an electromagnetic pulse hit us full scale, hit the planet, would it just wipe out every electrical device and put us into the Stone Age?
Unless things were in a Faraday cage or hardened, like the government
Mm-hmm.
has hardened computers and that type of thing. But the average person would go back to a primitive lifestyle.
Mm-hmm. Now,
That's
I've had a few pictures out in our background here, and obviously they're of yours. These are your pictures. So it looks to me you got some primitive stuff going on there, Celeste. If the big one hits, are you going to be able to survive from what you grow and keep and make?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, basically, I'm sitting right here to my left is an Amish wood cook stove. And so I can cook, bake, whatever I need to
Mm-hmm.
do. I know pretty much other than technology, I live an 1880 lifestyle.
Mm. Well, let me ask you a survival question. I've asked some of the survivalists have been on the program. I've got a lot of various answers, and I'll tell you the general summation of what I get. Uh, Obviously, you on your Facebook, you got canned this, you got strawberries and raspberries and some kind of wine or uh, something you're making there. It looks like of some sort of alcoholic content, champagne, and all this. Okay, so you've got this, you got it stored, and it all hits your neighbor down the road who's been mocking you. He's several miles down the mountain, wherever he's at. He's been send that nutcase up there making her own stuff and always acting like the world's going to end. All of a sudden it happens. They come up there. Are you going to hand over food? Are you going to say, "Oh, here you go"?
I think it depends on the situation. I've seen many people that said, I'm just not going to do it. I'm going to come to your house. And in that case, I'm not going to be available as the restaurant. But if somebody is truly needy, I will use the biblical um, definitions, of who's needy. I always leave like a portion of my um, harvest for the poor. I always have. But I do know how to defend myself and I do know how to defend what I have. So um, some people won't be welcome if they're the kind that
Mm-hmm.
that just sit on their duffs and
Mm-hmm.
don't do anything.
I seen one of those type of movies. There was this family. The father had saved all this stuff, and he made a secure room and everything, and he had his children there. And well, one of his children got to talking to a neighbor's child down the road a ways, and told them that they had storage goods. And so next thing you know, that whole family shows up, and they were armed, and they were ready to take it. And that was a major slip up on their part. But the general consensus that I've been getting, and I really admire what you said. I mean, it's thoroughly, obviously, you've thought about it, and you're going to, kind of leave that to as you're led. But the same people that created a world that causes us to have to prepare on our own, because we know the government is not going to help us, the police are not going to help us, the people, in fact, there's so many things that are arrayed against us that are man-made. Where you talk about some of the, external forces that could hit us, but there are internal forces that have been trying to kill us all along, with changing DNA, human hybrids, GMOs, and all these kinds of chemtrails. They've been trying to kill us for a long time. These people created this world, and I think we need to make sure that we don't help the people, the skeptics and those kinds of people, rebuild the world in their image. I mean, if they're already not prepared, then maybe they don't need to capitalize on somebody else's preparedness because they didn't believe it, and they're part of the reason the world is like it is. That's just kind of a general consensus I got over time from various guests.
So there is a government document, and I just did a show on it. It's called Standard Form 424A, and there's A, B, C, D, and it's at the end of every federal contract. So even if a person takes $1 from the federal government, it obliges you to do certain things, and you have to implement all these different acts, executive orders, and at the very end, the last one is almost hilarious. It goes, well, in case we forgot anything, or if anything new comes up in the future, you're subject to that too, that you have to implement. And that's when you were talking Agenda 21, a lot of your Agenda 21 is in there. It also is like the 503C, where churches are not allowed to speak about certain issues. That Standard Form 424 also commits a person who takes any federal dollars. They can't speak out on things like abortion, homosexuality, or any of the things that many of us hold dear.
Mm-hmm. Nine Lives asks questions. Says, Celeste, have you ever seen any UFOs?
I did see one UFO. It was in the 60s, and I lived on the beach in San Diego, and it was at 8:30 at night. And usually a plane, like it was not large. It was about the size of a little Piper plane. And it was going, I would say, maybe 30 feet above the water. And then all of a sudden it went vertical up, and in seconds it was gone. And my dad tried to look into it, given his connections. I believe he said that they saw it on their radar, but he was not at liberty to tell us any more than that.
Wow. All right. Barbara Briggs asked this question. She says, Celeste, I came out of the New Age occult, but before I did, one transcendental medium told me during a reading, oh my, you are electromagnetic. He said it twice, and I was shocked. I tried to search to understand what it meant. Do you know what it meant?
Yes, we're all electric. We are. There's a really wonderful book. It's very simple to read. It's called The Body Electric. And we are, all of us are, every cell is communicating with electricity. And a lot of that electricity is light based. So that's why she said that. It's not abnormal. I mean, you're a human, and even dogs and cats have it because they're also biochemical creatures.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned about your doggy. Do dogs go to heaven?
I believe that we will see animals in heaven. God was the creator. He created them. Do they have souls? No, not like us. They have an animal soul. But look at Jesus comes back on a horse. Where did he get the horse? I mean, so.
Okay, well, that's a good point there. But what about something like, I say, a Tasmanian devil or a three-toed sloth? Do these things get up there too?
Well, think about it. And I mean, the lion will lay down with the lamb. Yes, the animals will. If we are restored to the Garden of Eden, there were animals in the Garden of Eden, but they were not predatory. It's my understanding that predatory creatures, due to sin of man, began after Adam and Eve were expelled from the garden. I don't see any evidence before that the creatures were stalking or destroying one another or eating one another.
Our theme song for The Edge is called The Cosmic Cowboy, and in it we have a picture of Jesus on a horse. But now with UFOs flying around and stealth fighters, I mean, was the horse just how the ancient writers understood things to be? You think it will be a literal horse, or you think it's something else?
I look at scripture in different levels. I take it literally. And there's good reason. I don't believe Jesus would come back in a UFO, because that's forbidden angel technology. So why would Jesus use forbidden angel technology to come back? He wouldn't do it. He would come back on one of his creation, or in the clouds, or something of him, not something that was created by, or not designed or engineered by Satan, manipulated.
So do you think aliens are demons, or are they literal beings, or a combination of both?
Probably both. Probably both. Like that goes back to the ancient civilizations, the pre-Adamic civilizations. Were they demons? I don't believe that they were demons, but I don't believe they had a soul like us. I believe that Adam and Eve were the first people that were created in the image of God and had that divine soul in them. So when they went out, there were people. Scripture talks about the people. That's why Cain was frightened about being killed. Who was he? If there was no other people, who was he frightened about being killed from?
What is the time frame? And this got to be the most classic internet question of all time for any sort of cataclysmic event. We talking 5-10 years out? Sooner?
No, and we've started. We have started. I did a show this summer, and I said this is the first year of famine, and it's only going to go downhill from here. So be prepared. Be prepared to think outside the box, see things that you've never seen before, because you're going to be seeing things, and you're going to have experiences that you never thought possible.
Do you think we're going to see giants?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, now what type of ammo do I need to take these giants out, Celeste?
Well, according to Steve, you need copper.
Okay.
That's what he said, and he's much more experienced in that area than I am. So
yeah, and of course you're talking about Steve Quayle, and he told me, he said, Daniel, you got to get Celeste on your show. So I really appreciate you coming on. So he recommended you highly, Celeste. And of course, Susan and I met you there in Branson. Now, when you were in Branson, what was your did you come away with? Can you put it down to one thing that was said that was really wowed you?
I really liked Mike Adams' presentation. But each speaker came from answering the alien question from a very different perspective. So you got this really level-headed from people that investigate UFOs, to like the real X-File people, to people like Mike Adams. I just thought it was a really good investment of my time, and I
Oh.
came back with a lot.
Yeah, and for those who don't know, I correct me if I'm wrong, but Mike Adams' take was that the Earth is being terraformed and prepped
Yes.
for the aliens,
Yes.
to trying to make it more alien centric or livable. Meanwhile,
Yes.
they've got to decrease the population, but they're kind of doing it gradually, kind of like we're going to turn it over. And
And that's my take too.
mhm.
I see. I mean, it is. I'm going to be writing an article called The Lament, because it's really sad to see the world that we used to know disappear. But it is disappearing. Plants are dying, animals are dying. I'll give you one example. I had this goat, and this is like maybe 4 years ago, maybe 5 years ago. And it was a small goat. And that's her right there. And it looked like she had, there she is pregnant. It looked like she was going to have triplets. And I waited and waited and waited. Nothing came. And it looked like she was getting a prolapse rectum. So I took her to the veterinarian, and I said, I think that she's got 3. And he said, yeah, I think she's got 3 too. And so there were 2 vets in attendance, and I heard 2 little cries when they did a C-section on her.
Oh.
And there were only 2, and I thought, well, that's really kind of strange. So anyway, they don't keep them like at a hospital. You know, if you had a C-section, you'd stay in the hospital, but with vets, they don't. So we put her in the car, and back home we went 3 hours. And I called later in the afternoon. I said, this goat is near death. I mean, she's like laying down and she can't hardly lift her head. And I thought, she's dying. And the vet didn't have any suggestions of anything that I could do. Well, the next day, because she had had a C-section, I had to bottle feed the babies because she didn't get that bond that they get, you know, when they deliver naturally. So I took my bottles down, and there was this screaming, and there was a little wet goat right in the middle of the pen, and the other 2 were in the heat lamp area. And I go, there were only 2 when I brought them home yesterday. And so there was a 3rd one, and it was 7 pounds. Now, mind you, they had stitched up her rear end because of the prolapse.
Yeah.
So then the next time, 4 hours later, I went down and took more bottles, because you have to do it every 4 hours when they're little like that. And I kid you not, there was another one.
What?
So there were 2 extra kids. 14 pounds of kids came out of her. She did not live, but I called the vet and I said, how does this happen? You went in there into her uterus. He said, there were only 2 kids in there. And I said, have you ever seen something like this before? And he said, the only time I've seen it before was 30 years ago. One cow had a calf. I guess it developed in the lining of the uterus. But apparently these kids, either she had 2 uteruses or something, because there were you can't miss 14 pounds of kids. It's impossible.
No.
And the vet said they weren't in the uterus that they worked on. So that's one of the strange things. But I'm losing plants. I see the effects of the herbicides on them. I see the effects of the cosmic rays. I see
Celeste,
the effects of the radiation.
Did you say, I kid you not?
I kid you not. Yeah.
I stole that one from Jade. All right. Carol says, Celeste, what type of experience are we going to see that we never thought possible?
I think that the invisible realm is going to become visible at some point. Mm-hmm. So a lot of the things that we miss, whether it's angelic or demonic, that will manifest. I also see this trend. They're breaking everything like DARPA is breaking everything down to its elemental form, like down to the molecular level. And I think we're going to see some re-engineering of life. As a matter of fact, like 2 years ago, I ran across a new classification for life. And in that organizational chart, there were places for demons, giants, hybrids, and new life forms that we've never ever seen.
Sounds like a freak show coming our way.
Yeah, yeah.
Even worse than Congress. And I didn't think that was possible, but the way you describe it, sure it is. Paul says, Celeste, are there other human races out there similar to us that's sort of out in the cosmos or even here among us? Is everyone among us human?
No. I believe that. So there's synths, SYNTHS. If you go to sanctuary.ai, they've kind of gone dark now. I managed to, if you go on my website, you can, if you look up synths, I got some of the last coverage before they went behind a wall where you couldn't see what they were up to. But they're in subterranean labyrinths making these artificial humans with no souls. They're totally robotic. Mm-hmm. And they want to make them as real as possible. Like they will have more compassion and empathy, and their touch will be just like a human. They'll have a heartbeat. It's going to be very difficult without discernment from the Holy Spirit to tell what is human and what is not.
I was wondering, sex robots are all the rage in Japan, and they're certainly here in the United States. And I'm just wondering if they're programming, say, some freak is using a sex robot, and then perhaps it starts to speak that's not in the program. I mean, I got a feeling if something lifelike like that with a AI intelligence in it, that may just be a body for something to enter into. Are we going to see stuff like that?
Absolutely. I mean, that's what these are, perfect receptacles. You know, we have to look that even us, our human body, the Bible talks about it as a garment, that is a temporary dwelling. And so these artificial synths can be the habitation for demons.
Mm-hmm. How long do you think these synths have been around?
They started working on them several years ago. They're pretty far in the program, but like I said, they've gone dark, so now you can't find out too much about them. For
the non-humans among us, Celeste, is there any sort of trigger word or identifiable trait that we can use? I mean, like say, black eyes or something like that, or a specific word, like maybe using the name of Jesus, just to trigger them. Is there anything that we can use to identify them?
Well, if it was demonic, if it was a habitation for a demon, if you did say, I rebuke you in the name of Jesus, it would leave. But if it was just a machine, if it was artificial intelligence, if it was a robot, I don't know that necessarily would work unless it was inhabited by a spirit.
Mm-hmm. Carol asked this question. She said, Celeste, what about the declassification of the Adam and Eve book? Why would the government have that?
Why would they have it declassified, or why did they make the book in the first place?
I don't know. Carol, you'd have to clarify that question there to get the answer to that. I'm not sure about that. What about when people are taken away, when they're taken away to heaven? Is that going to happen?
The rapture?
Yeah.
To me, I don't see it myself. If it happens, I would be very thankful for that. Mm-hmm. But I see God always putting his people through testing and a refining period. And don't forget, this is going to be our purification time to be that spotless bride for the wedding supper of the Lamb. So look, anybody that's been through a wedding of any kind knows it's a lot of work. And so this time period, we can look at it two ways. We can look at it as a lot of work and drudgery, or that a really exciting time that he's preparing us, and kind of like he's the potter and we're the clay, and he's getting us ready. And yeah, we may go through some real hard refining fire in that process, but in the end, we're going to be his forever. And
well, I've been to a wedding recently, and man, it was an expensive wedding. And then they were kind of like after the thing, and then they played the song Thriller. Then they drugged me out on the dance floor, and I'm going dun 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 dun. So it is a lot of work. You know, you gotta watch that. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I was on something that night. So Carol, okay, this is from Carol again. Can you ask Celeste to share her Patreon link so people can follow her if they want to get more information?
Okay, it's my blog is shepherdsheart.life, and Patreon is Shepherd's Heart Farm. So that's my Patreon account.
All right, and what does Patreon do for you? How does it help you?
So basically, I get subscribers, and they support my work. I have as low as $1, and the sky's the limit, whatever you'd like to contribute. I do have one-time contributions through PayPal. And for that, what you get, we have a prayer thread. I share articles that are interesting that I don't have time to write about. We're studying Psalm 91 and committing it to heart right now. So we do a lot of things. We're supporting one another. I do prep tips. We have a Pet Monday, and I talk to both dogs and cats separate, and then if it's a joint one together. We do an herb of the week, and then of course for prep tips, like growing things or canning or anything, I'm always open to questions. So for any level, you have access to that. And then if you have access to ask me any question, and if I have time, I do answer them individually. So
now not all Christians believe in the rapture. And I would think that people that are being hunted down in the Middle East wish there was a rapture. They're getting their heads cut off, and there's a genocide going on over there. But that being said, here in the United States, I've heard that that the Baptists are actually going to be first in the rapture. You know why? Okay. So, I'm sorry. I'll try to keep a straight face. No, because the Bible says the dead in Christ shall rise first. And so the Baptists, of course, okay. All right. Well, never mind. Go move on, Daniel. move along. No, it can happen. No, it can really happen. But no, so I think that this AI is coming along, and like you said, it's in everything. And there's going to come a time, Celeste, when we're not going to recognize who's giving us orders, whether it's our elected officials or an AI program that got turned on.
So I have an example on that one. So like, I'm not sure if it was 2 or 3 years. It was 3 years ago. We had a bad wildfire here, and basically they declared martial law. And of course, I know how to get information, and I know the right channels to go through because of the situation, because I'm an incident commander. I know these things. So I tried to get information. Nothing. It was like a brick wall, and that was interesting. And there were tanks on the streets, and army people on every road that went onto the highway. They brought law enforcement from everywhere to inundate us. Anyway, after the fact, I found out that was the first time that AI had run an operation. So that wildfire, they actually turned the incident command over to artificial intelligence and did whatever artificial intelligence said. And let me tell you, having lived through it, it was not people friendly. I can tell you that.
Wow. The California fires, are those just random fires started by the Santa Ana winds, or is somebody starting them? Like maybe
Well,
some kind of.
there are all sorts of things in play with that one. That's very complicated. One, you've got explosive nanoparticles that are coating the vegetation. Two, they do have droughts, and Santa Anas have always whipped up the winds down there. But you also have the inner earth heating up. The crust of the earth is heating up and causing, I believe, some of these fires. Then, plus, you probably have some directed energy weapon also.
Mm-hmm. I've seen some pictures from there that look like directed energy weapons, like beams of light coming down from the sky. But now others say that basically they're setting it on fire so that California can steal the land and put a high-speed train through there. So there's a lot of conspiracy theories in there, but in the end, it just seems that some of it is being made up, and some of it is just almost like testing.
Well, part of the forest plan for the last 40 or 50 years was to burn out large swaths of land so that it would be bought up by the government. That is in the forest plan, to let these wildfires go unbridled, kind of. I mean, they'll put on a show like they're taking care of it, but they don't. And then these tracts get absorbed back into the federal government, which then goes under the Agenda 21 2030 implementation plan. Mm-hmm. And then a lot of the people are not allowed to rebuild because the zoning has changed. Mm-hmm. And some of that makes sense because, so I'll give one example. When I would go to see my maternal grandmother, there was some people that lived in a gully. Well, every year the gully got washed out and their house got washed away. And every year they got a new house. Now, they shouldn't have been allowed to live in a gully. But a lot of people now it's more nefarious than that. It's more, we want their land and this is a way to do it without
paying for it.
Yeah.
Well, now, of course, that's exactly what L.A. Marzulli said when his house burnt down. They said a whole massive tract of land just sort of got swallowed up by the government, and they're not letting anybody rebuild. And he said, I think there's a lawsuit, but I don't think people have much recourse against a government that's going crazy like that.
No, because one of those things that standard 424 at the end of every federal contract is that you have to enforce the Scenic and Wild Rivers Act. And basically that's part of the Agenda 21 2030 that does not allow a human within 30 miles of any body of water. Mm-hmm. So that's the ocean, a stream, even could be a mud puddle in your yard.
Mm-hmm. Now I sort of have a grievance against California because with all these fires and everything, they spent $24 billion on a high-speed rail train, and it doesn't go anywhere, and they're wanting hundreds of billions of dollars more from the government. All those billions they could have used to run fire hydrants out to the forest, or paid somebody to clean the underbrush up. They spend their money so frivolously on whacked out social programs, and California is the 7th largest economy in the world, so I don't ever want to hear them people saying, hey, we need more money, we need government bailout. They're crazy liberals that just spend on every damn thing, and they just like, if they want more money, they just start taxing people more, and they have a massive exodus of people from that state anyway as a result.
Yeah, but see, then the illegal aliens come in and other people fill in, and they get the voting base that they want. Mm-hmm. And so it's basically a way of taking territory that they want. Mm-hmm. And then they put in their implementation of Agenda 21 2030.
Mm-hmm. While you were at FEMA, answer another internet question. Does FEMA own hundreds of thousands of caskets?
No.
And I'm talking about, if you've seen the pictures of the plastic.
There is a mass casualty plan. It is part of the national response plan to have, in case of a mass casualty, they do have to have some things. Mm-hmm. And are they expecting, do they know that there's going to be some mass casualties? Absolutely.
Oh, at least that part of it is true. All right. Question for you. Acknowledging that the agenda has already begun by the dark side. Celeste, what do you see as the first cataclysmic event to hit America?
Famine.
Mm-hmm. Now, I know here in Indiana, we had corn, because of the rain. It rained here so much that a lot of the farmers barely got their crops out. And I've seen some of the scraggly crops. The corn should have been 6 to 7 feet high at the end of the season, and it was only like 5 feet, and it's a scrawny looking stuff. They had planned late. So I'm pretty much sure that Indiana is not going to have the amount of corn that they normally produce. And I would imagine Midwest, or however, that massive amount of rain that hit this area. So is that sort of a beginning? Do you think there's weather wars going on that caused that rain to cause the crops to fail?
Like I said, there's a synergy going on. I believe, yes, weather wars, but also these cosmic rays form a nucleus, and the nucleus makes rain and precipitation. So the forecast is that whatever you experience this year, you're going to be experiencing in increasing amounts every year exponentially from now on. As for me, I had freezing. I only had 10 days where it didn't freeze. I had one zucchini. Who ever heard of that?
I never heard of that.
And I grow
plants.
I grow about 500 different types of plants from around the world and different time periods, specifically because I knew this was coming and I wanted to beta test. So I grow stuff from Siberia, and even the crops from Siberia had a trouble. I didn't get skunk this year, but it was dicey. Mm-hmm. And so here on out, I don't know what I'll get.
Mm-hmm. Question. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
All right. Will we see robots with a conscience?
What's with a conscience? Maybe a conscience.
I would think the AI could,
but not a soul. They're not going to have a spirit, mm-hmm. a soul, but they might be able, to think. They are doing lots of biomimicry. As a matter of fact, what's the place? Singularity University this week is holding its annual medical thing. And if I would have had time, I would have loved to have attended it, because boy, just watch that. It happens once a year. It'll curl your hair, the different things that they, and these are physicians, and these are actually things in real time that are going on. Mm-hmm. And it's enough to scare the dickens out of you. Mm-hmm. So I think it's possible.
Do you have any varmints trying to get in your garden?
Deer, the brown menaces, because I have I live in a vacation destination, and so there's not a lot of folks around to hire to do after winter repair, and my fence kind of collapsed a little bit. So they like a free buffet. But other than that, no. But every year is different. It looked like I was going to have a bad rodent year, but thank God that the rodent stayed away.
Now, do you hunt?
I could hunt. Mm-hmm. I know how to hunt, mm-hmm. but I don't. Mm-hmm. I mean, I, as one person, you have to prioritize. And doing what I'm doing and writing has taken priority right now. And then I do work 22 hours a day to just do everything that I do.
Mm-hmm. So you sort of prep for the winter, and how much % of what you eat do you grow?
So when David was alive, between hunting, wildcrafting, and what we grew, we were 98% self-sufficient. Self-sufficient.
Well,
Now I'm probably 90. I do buy a couple things, and I buy meat.
well, that was my next question. Are you a vegan or you have a big old piece of meat, huh? Like what? What's your favorite meat?
A T-bone steak.
well, this is good because the guys. I'm sure the guys watching the program are every once in a while you get a vegan on, it'll say something wrong with me, but so we kind of need a little confidence built back up that we can go get that big old steak. But I guess what you want to make sure is that the steak you're eating, the cow didn't eat GMO corn or something like that.
Absolutely. Yes. I know the ranchers, and I don't buy anything that I don't know who produced it, except for I do get some flour and it's Wheat Montana, and I know it's not GMO.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Mm-hmm. Somebody put Yahweh first asked, what type of dwelling do you live in? It looks like a rustic type of house.
Yes, it's a log cabin, and log cabins are notorious for several things: dust, flies. But once you heat it up, it stays. The logs keep it very warm.
Mm-hmm.
And I do have I have the wood cook stove, and I also have a stone fireplace with the insert. But I do go through a lot of wood. If it goes to minus 50 degrees or even minus 30 degrees, I'm round the clock stuffing stoves to keep pipes from freezing.
I see that. Wow. It looks like Santa Claus land up in there. But now in a log cabin, now, do you have to spray that for bugs, or you just let it go all natural and it is what it is?
Yeah, the only thing that's really a pest are the flies that get in the cracks. Yeah. And a lot of people have chinking, but this particular house does not have chinking.
Okay, so you don't have to spray it or anything like that?
Nope.
Okay. All right. Question from Plower said, could the increase of cosmic radiation lead to a dimensional shift into a new universe where the ancient gods become visible again?
I think that goes back to the Mike Adams presentation, that the Earth is being terraformed for these new, the Golden Age, the return of the little g gods and little g goddesses. So I believe it's part of it. Like I said, I believe that it's a piggyback situation, that they're working hand in hand now. God's judgment plus man's reprobate mind will bring about some very strange situations.
Well, I think we've all seen some very strange situations in this country here pretty quickly. Hey, my friend down Tony in Louisiana says, Celeste, have you seen the new TV program on Tuesdays called Emergence with an AI girl named Piper?
No, I don't watch TV.
You don't watch TV?
I don't watch TV. I'm too busy. That. I'm sorry.
Well, good. You don't even have Netflix, huh?
I do have Netflix.
Aha. Okay. What's your favorite Netflix show?
When Calls the Heart.
Oh, that sounds like a Downtown Abbey type show.
Well, it's like a Little House on the Prairie type of show.
Okay.
Only it's set in like 1883, and it's a teacher, and she goes to a coal mining town, and so.
Yeah, I don't watch much TV at all. I just don't have time. But we will watch a Netflix and movie. Hey, we saw a great Netflix movie called Zombieland. It'll crack you up, okay? I mean, you got zombies.
I just go to the city and I see Zombieland, so know.
And that is true, and you could see it because a lot of times the zombies, like when you go to a Starbucks or something like that, their mouths are just hanging open. Kind of like that all the time. It's like, dude, man, you dumber. And I mean, I don't even know. I mean, so I definitely, and that goes back to my question in the first hour. How can you identify some of these non-humans? Well, zombies clearly are not human. But seriously though, more and more people being taken over with with ridiculous opinions and beliefs. I think they're saying that 35% of Americans now want to be socialist, which is just a gun-free way of becoming a communist. So, eventually, I mean, we're 10 years out from some kind of socialist nightmare. So I don't know, really, Celeste, which is worse, the electromagnetic radiation bombarding us or these zombie-looking freaks running the show?
But do you know that that's part of the electromagnetic radiation, is that it takes away your memory, it decreases your ability to function, and it makes you feel either lethargic, depressed, or violent. Mm-hmm. So these all are happening during waves. As a matter of fact, I had someone that I know that I met at Branson, and he works in a hospital, and he said during this last sun-earth connection, they had some shootings, and the police were in the emergency room, and they actually had to throw blows in the emergency room because the people were so violent. And that was because we were at a solar minimum, and these cosmic rays were just stirring up havoc in these people.
Wow. Well, I had another question, but I forgot.
You remember? It'll come back.
No, I know. I got hit with a radiation ray, and I forgot because you said that was part of the thing. All right.
It is.
All right. What do you think UV rays are doing?
So UV is interesting. The last couple of years, I've noticed when I go out, my skin burns, and also the leaves on the plants are burning. And I mean, you can go out and they're fine one day, and the next day you go out and they're just seared, like you took a blowtorch to them.
I know my hosta plants burnt up this year.
Your what?
My hosta plants.
I don't know what that is.
Oh, hosta plant. There's variegated hostas. There's sort of this bushy, variegated leaf looking plant that's kind of low to the ground. It has a single flower comes up, and butterfly or hummingbirds like them. They're called hosta. But anyway, they got all burnt up. But I think it's because I planted them in the sun and they were a shade plant. So.
Oh yeah, that.
I'm sorry, I keep sliding those in there. I don't know why. Okay. But no, so we got a lot of things coming our way, and you are kind of a great, you have a great experience in researching these things, Celeste. And so in that book that I've had in the background a couple times, Electromagnetic Radiation Protection Solutions, are there a lot of answers in there to help people out?
Yeah, actually. So can I share a few?
Well, certainly, absolutely. That's what we're here for.
Okay, so one, I want to tell you some that are not in the book. Of course, whenever you write a book, I don't know if you've had that experience, but the week after you come up with new material, that's part of the problem of being a proverbial researcher.
Okay.
So I got a hold of a military document, and it gave some of the things that they found and as radioprotective. And one of those is sulfur, and there's cysteine, penicillamine, glutathione, bunte salts, amoxapine, selenium, now that's a mineral, psychotropic drugs and tranquilizers. And no, I'm not endorsing them. I'm just telling you what the military said. Serotonin, which is what some people use for insomnia, interferon inducers, and of course your potassium iodide. But just because you're special, I am going to give you my dirty, down and dirty radio protection combo.
Right on.
And this will provide your body with layers of protection to cover most of the rays that would hit. So what you want is vitamin C, NAC, which is N-acetylcysteine, so that's your sulfur, selenium, glutathione, lipoic acid, and you need to get a combination vitamin E. Vitamin E comes in like 5 different kinds, and you want one that has a little bit of everything. And you can get that on Amazon. And I'm going to ask you a question now.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think NASA's #1 radioprotective suggestion would be?
NASA's #1
radio
protection. Contributing to Hillary Clinton's re-election campaign? I don't know.
Nope. Dried prunes.
What?
Dried prunes. And so you don't want the fresh. You can buy them powdered. You can put them in your smoothie. You can get them just dehydrated. But that was their #1 suggestion for protecting your body against cosmic rays.
That's odd that they would suggest that. So does NASA have a scientists that look into that?
Yes, absolutely. And in the beginning of the book where it talked about how radiation affects different parts of the body, that all came from NASA's researchers. Mm-hmm. The different studies that they did on people.
I wasn't really being too crazy with my answer, Celeste, because when Obama became president, he said he wanted to turn NASA into a Islam outreach organization. I had never understood what that was. I just knew that somehow he wanted to politicize NASA, and I thought, well, who even comes up with that kind of stuff, man? Once you guys figure out how to get to the moon or Mars, get to the moon for the first time,
Well, they're already talking about mining asteroids, so anything's possible, It's just, we don't want to go out there just for the enjoyment, like taking a hike or something. We've got to go commercialize it. So it's kind of sad.
Who's that one nutbag that owns Tesla? Elon Musk. That guy, he definitely is not human. Is he some sort of android hybrid? What's wrong with that guy?
I don't know. Maybe he got dropped on his head as a baby.
Have you ever seen him?
No.
Have you ever heard him talk? Well, go look it up. Elon Musk, man, he is weird. If there's somebody with like a soulless, he looks like, and I'm really not making that up. He has this look that you just think this guy's not human, man. The way he acts, and of course he's into space. He's the guy sent his Tesla car out into space, but something wrong with him in his brain. Maybe it's been eaten away. But what you talk about the effects of the electromagnetic radiation, how angry people are. The people in this country are so angry. It's anger that defies logic. And some groups are screaming at the sky. Some are running around naked. Some are chasing people down the street if they have a red hat on. They're just violent and they're crazy. There's Antifa running around there. Riots in the streets. Are these people just turning into freakazoids because of all the radiation? And if that is possible, Celeste, wouldn't it be possible for the government to emulate that or create some sort of weapon that does exactly that so they can control the masses and cause chaos?
Or they can. So I have several Air Force dosimetry manuals, and that it shows what parts of the body, what kilohertz or megawatts or whatever it takes for certain organs of the body. They can make you calm. They can make you agitated. They can explode your heart. It was used in the Gulf War to make the Iraqis think that their skin was burning. They also have used it in demonstrations to cause people to back off when they want to have an area vacated. So it's both things that are happening. The CIA Adam and Eve story talks about the violence and the rape in that book, and it's a short read. It's about 70 or 90 pages, and I would suggest everybody go to the CIA library and read it so that they know what's coming. It also talks about rapes increasing and cannibalism.
Hmm.
So
Well,
they were.
I know Sweden's become a rape fest over there, but I don't think it's. But it's because of the immigration policy that they have. So as far as that goes, but um, now, have you ever had lucid dreams or visions, Celeste, of the end times?
Yes.
And what are a couple of the scenarios, or a scenario that you've seen in your dreams?
So the first one was nuclear war, and then recently, like in preparation for doing the, so I was writing on the 10 plagues, and then I had one on about the seven thunders. And so then I wrote about the seven thunders, and I'm trying to get that. I'm almost done with it, and I would have got my pictures in, and it's all edited, but the power, they pulled the power. They did a California number on us the other day. So I have to continue working on inserting pictures, photographs, and then that Seven Thunders will be out.
Mm-hmm. What do you mean they pulled the power? Your power just went off?
Yeah. I was just happy as a clam, just working at my computer, sticking in pictures, and all of a sudden everything went dark. So, and then I called them and they said, oh, it's going to be out for a few hours. So,
is that connected to the California thing?
Who knows? More and more you're hearing, oh, our server, I went to the vet on Tuesday, our servers are down. More and more, everybody across the United States and really the world are having these events. So, and even the food, circling back to the food, it's not just the U.S. farmers and the Midwest. You're talking all the countries are in the same situation where they were not able to produce. Either it was too hot or too cold or too wet. So everybody's looking for food right now. That's why I say famine is going to be the first thing that hits us.
Mm. Now, how long should people store up food for?
I think the longer the better. Although that said, I would also concentrate on skill sets that if you had to leave your provisions and go on the hoof, as I say, that you would be able to take your skills with you and reset up. Now, when I left the agencies, I left with 2 suitcases to a place unknown and had to start all over. I had to leave all my preps and had to start all over. So none of us ever knows. So you need to be prepared for both. For those of the listeners that are canners, take note that the new canning lids, about 2 or 3, no, David was still alive, so it has to be 3 or 4 years now. They went to 18 months. The canning lids used to stay sealed for 30 years, 50 years. And the canned goods were good. Now the seals don't last. Wow. And so this year I've had to throw a lot of food with these new lids.
Now, how do you know the food is bad? You see fungus or something growing in there?
No, you don't. You see if the lid is, if you open it and it doesn't kind of hiss, you have to kind of be suspect. But it's a concave. If your lid is bulging up, that means that don't feed it to your animals. Don't let wild animals eat it. Dispose of it some way, either burying it or incinerating it or whatever, because it can have botulism. Mm-hmm. So it's a very dangerous situation. Mm-hmm. But you're safe. I mean, people are scared of homegrown food. I would rather eat homegrown food. The chance of food poisoning is much less with the food that you grow than anything that you're going to get at the store. Look, I mean, they don't even tell people, I would say, 1/1000th of the recalls that are actually being recalled in the foods.
So your situation, you're in a cataclysmic event. You're what do they call it? Stay in place? Is that what they call it?
Shelter in
Shelter
place.
in place. Is that so? That's what you're planning for, right?
It just depends on the situation. I may have to leave. I mean, you just don't know. What if a wildfire did come? I mean, a wildfire was 10 miles from my house. In that case, you don't have a choice. You have to leave. But if I could shelter, if it's just winter storm, if it's just going to be 50, 75, 100 below, I can do that.
I can't. Hey man, I'm working on above 30. That's where I want to stay. But so if you, if you had to leave, so you have like 3-day packs, or you got a trailer full of stuff ready to go, man, or are you going to say, well, okay, you sort of cross that bridge when you get there and take what you've got stored and kind of move it with you? What did you have a plan for that?
So my stuff is one of the most important things for everybody in a catastrophic situation is to be organized. And I have different things strategically placed that, I could just go with a backpack. I could fill a car if I needed to. It depended on the situation and how much time I thought that situation was going to be happening. Of course, the one thing, everybody said when David was killed, move, because a woman in the wilderness alone, that's just unheard of. And I didn't have a peace about that. I figure if the Lord wants me to move, he'll tell me. And actually, I feel very protected here. I don't have to be concerned about the hordes of people that someone in the city might have to face. Yes, I face grizzly bears. I would rather face a grizzly bear. I know how to deal with grizzly bears. Where an angry mob of people, I'm not a city girl, so I would be out of my element in the city. So, but I talked with another friend that lived in San Francisco. I said, did the fires affect you at all? And he actually is in hotel service, and they did not turn off the power to the city. So I think that this is something that they're doing in the rural areas. And then he said then the rooms would book up. So is this a plan to just get people out of the rural areas, get them into the city where they can corral them,
Yeah, well, of course. Now, if they cut power in the city, there would be rampages in there. But hey, the good news is that it'd take out a lot of freaks. The freaks would feed on each other like zombies looking for a meal. They got to turn on themselves eventually. But so it sounds like you'd rather face the grizzly bear than some of those hordes running around through there. But now, from time to time, Celeste, people say, they're told to move. And I've always wondered, okay, well, I've not got any messages like that. I don't know. Is anybody in the live chat, have you ever got, to kind of throw a question out here toward the end of the broadcast, has God, anybody listening, has God ever told you to move? So I've never got the orders, and I really wouldn't know how that would come. Do you think it would just come through a series of coincidences? Say, hey, there's a job offering in another city, and it seemed to be a wonder job for me. Say tailor made. Maybe I was thinking about it. You think does it come that way, or does it come through a vision? How does one get the word to move?
I've had the still small voice. I've had circumstances. So I've had both of those situations. A person could have a dream, I suppose. I haven't never had a dream myself, but someone else might have it. But I would listen to that still small voice. If your still small voice says flee, you best flee if you're a believer, because the Lord has your back. So you want to listen.
Has God ever spoke to you directly?
Yes.
Do you remember what he said?
Yeah. So I just shared my testimony on my show last week. And the first thing that he said to me, it was on June 6, 1967, at my grandmother's house, that I would be martyred for his name. So
wow,
that was pretty sobering. That was back in the 60s. I was a young girl. It seemed I knew what it meant intellectually, but it seemed very far off. I couldn't envision the circumstances or anything. But given the state of the world, given my faith, I can see it now. So that was the first thing he said to me.
Doesn't the Bible say in the book of Revelations that some people will have their heads cut off for their faith?
Yes.
That's another, we're talking about internet lore, particularly concerning FEMA. Every once in a while, there's people say they've seen guillotines on trains going to FEMA camps. Is there any truth to that?
Well, I apart from FEMA, I don't have information on that. But that said, I've done extensive research back when the military was not behind a wall the way that it is now. And I did preserve many military documents about guillotine, building a better guillotine. There was a fascination with guillotine, how to take out leadership via a guillotine, that it was more personal than a weapon of mass destruction, because it would instill fear in the population and therefore was a good control mechanism. So it is a real thing. It is a real thing.
So Celeste, how do you live psychologically with, after what you said, that you were given the information that you're going to be murdered? How do you square that and carry on day to day? I mean, are you looking for it? I mean, are you suspecting? Could that be it? Could this be the day? Could the grocery driver, truck driver, could he be the one? I mean, what do you do with that?
What do I do with that? I believe that all of us, our days are numbered by the Lord, and that He knows the number of our days, and it's not for me to worry about. Mm-hmm. It's in His hand. And when it's my time to go, then I finished my job here, and I will be here. I mean, I don't care what evil forces are arrayed against me. If it's not my time to go and I haven't finished the Lord's mission for me, He is all powerful. He is all sovereign, and He will keep me here. It is He that will take my last breath. And so I don't worry about it.
Okay. Well, listen, we're getting near the end of the broadcast here, Celeste. Any final thoughts, anything you want to leave the viewing audience with? What can they take away from our conversation that you'd like to make sure they know about?
I just hope that everybody does invest in the Radiation Protection Solutions book, because I really see that that's God's provision for us for these days. And it does cover 5G. It does cover nuclear radiation and all the radiation that's out there. So it's $12.95, so it's reasonably priced so that it would fit in any budget. So anyway, and if people have questions, they can always contact me. And it was a pleasure to be on your show.
Well, yeah, thanks for staying with us on that. And I see a lot of people in the live chat are so happy that you came on, and they're saying they love you and they want us to have you back. So Celeste, can we have you back on the show again sometime?
Absolutely. But let's